Hey everyone, welcome to the Lewis Lee podcast. My name is Lewis Lee. The last time I did a Q&A, that was episode number 157, where we talked about value, burnout, and journaling. And if you like this episode, I would highly suggest you check out episode 157 as well. I am, for those of you that don't know me, a marketer and former insurance agent / comedian and writer, which makes me a very interesting and weird person. And that's going to be the lens that I'm looking out of when answering these questions. So I would love to hear your feedback, hear your answers. And you can tweet those at me at @_Lewis_Lee. I would love to hear from you. But until that time, I hope that you're staying healthy. I hope that you're staying sane. And I hope that some of the perspective that I'm going to share would be helpful for you as well, as it has for me. Moving on to the first question. The first question is, what was the best relationship advice you ever got? And this makes me think of when I bought the wedding ring set for my wife. I bought it from a friend of mine, a business colleague who's been a jeweler for decades. And he was originally from India. And when he was in India, he was a part of an arranged marriage. He and his wife had known each other for 4 days, and then they got married. And when the time came for me to buy my wedding rings off of him, he told me that they were about to celebrate 45 years of marriage, which is an incredible accomplishment, and was an opportunity for me to learn from. I asked him, what was the magic? What was the secret sauce to getting to 45 years? And his answer was that you can't change people. And to me, I always have that in the back of my mind when I see an opportunity, we'll call it, for my wife to handle something or do something different. I always remind myself that I can't change her. The only person that can change someone else or change something about someone is that person. And the catch-22 is that when you try to change people, it's kind of like a Chinese finger trap. The harder you pull, the more difficult it's going to be. And that's what Mr. Shaw, who was the jeweler, had given me advice, is that the more you try to change people, the less that they want to change, and that people only change if they want to. That doesn't mean that you can't be honest with someone and be honest about how you're perceiving things. But there's a difference between being honest and trying to lay a guilt trip or trying to force someone to do something that they don't want to do. So, trying to change people is completely out of our control. And in order to work harmoniously with someone, it's better to double down on what you can control and hope that sets an example of the change that you want to see in other people. Next question. How can I be more effective in networking? To me, when I was reading this question, the word effective jumped out to me because my boss had once told me that building relationships isn't really efficient if you think about it. Building relationships isn't as cut and dry as filling out a spreadsheet and learning code to auto-populate certain formulas. And this is because human beings are more complicated than mere machines, where we can just plug certain things. We could plug A into B, and if we could figure out how to do that better, then maybe we can get to A to Z faster. That's not the case with relationships, because that's not the case with people. People are very complex. Relationships building between people are complex. And I think that removing this idea of efficiency when it comes to your networking is a good start, because that kind of frees you up to go deeper and really look at it more so as relationship building, more so as transactional in the business networking sense. And then when you get to that point, when you get to that perspective of relationship building in a business sense, you cannot think about yourself. One of the most freeing things for me that I learned as an insurance agent going to networking events was that nobody cared about who I was and what I did. Initially, they didn't care at the beginning. And I remember going in to networking events and being so nervous about what are people going to think? Are people going to like me? Are people going to want to do business with me? And I realized that the common thread throughout all of my concerns was me thinking about me. So I immediately turned the thinking around to everyone else but me, and that really gave me that the chance to take weight off of my shoulders and go into networking events a lot lighter. And one of the rules that I put in place was that I would always be the one to ask who what the person's name was, and I would always ask what they did and really show interest in the work that they're doing. And I would never bring up what type of work that I was in. I would never bring up that I was an insurance agent unless they asked me what I did. And 9 times out of 10, people, after 5 minutes of talking about themselves and feeling good about it, they would want to show interest in me as well. That would open the door to tell them about who I am and what I do, and the work that I'm trying to do. And that 1 out of 10 times where someone wouldn't ask me what I did, to me, I just took that as a signal, as, well, this is probably someone who is not going to be a productive ally in the sense of a business colleague moving forward. If they can't show interest in me, how are they going to show interest in their clients or in looking for referrals to send my way? So to me, I kind of looked at those people that didn't show interest in me as someone who just wasn't a good fit for my business network. So it was kind of a built-in filtering mechanism. And then lastly, when it comes to networking, I remember first networking, I would set this rule where I wasn't going to spend more than like 10 minutes with people. And I think that's ridiculous, because I think it's kind of going back to the transactional side of things. I don't think that you have to connect with anyone and everyone. Let's look at LinkedIn, for example. I mean, how many people in your network on LinkedIn could you message right now and say, do you know about any job openings? Or reach out to them and say, do you know anyone that is looking for a job opportunity? We have one coming down the pike where we're at. If you can't ask those 2 questions, then why do you have that person in your network? A lot of times we have people in our network because we want to get those numbers up, and we might uh, miss opportunities if we don't connect with them. But the general rule for me is if I don't know you, I'm not going to connect with you, because connecting with you, we're hoping to receive some type of value from being in each other's networks. And if you reach out to someone and it's like, who's this? Who's he? Who is Lee? Then that doesn't seem to be so productive. So don't connect with just anyone and everyone. Be very specific and granular with who is in your network. Next question. What are the most productive ways to spend time on the internet? And this is increasingly becoming an oxymoron. Spending time on the internet and the idea of being productive is a slippery slope. And that's why I've talked about this before. Time blocking is essential. Block out time on your calendar on when you're going to use the internet, when you're going to use social media, when you're going to search things on Google, when you're going to start going on streaming on YouTube. Set time aside and only use the internet during that set time. And to me, that puts you on the offense instead of on the defense of these tech companies that are trying to siphon your attention. So time blocking is huge. As it comes to time frame, supposedly from the research that I've heard other people have conducted, 30 minutes on social media is good. 30 minutes on watching TV is good. So if you're not there yet, try to work towards that goal, blocking it off daily, and see what happens. The times I am online, I like kind of going down rabbit holes on things that I'm interested in. So for instance, I was searching private equity yesterday, and there was terms that came up in private equity that I wasn't sure what they meant. So what I like, and this is for people that are using Google Chrome, I like the feature where you can highlight a word or a phrase, and you can right click on that word or phrase, and then you can select the search Google option when you right click. So once you do that, that opens up a new tab, and it brings up all the Google results on that term or phrase that you're looking for. And to me, I like going down that rabbit hole because you wind up getting into places that you would never have searched for initially at the beginning of your research. So start using the right click feature, search Google in a new tab, and enjoy the rabbit hole. Of course, in your respective time block. And then finally, no home feed when you're on any social media platforms. The social media home feeds are dominated and dictated by algorithms that they use. So stay off of the home feed. I like Twitter search. I like it better than Google search, specifically for real-time and news events. And you can use long tail words. So a long tail, so a regular keyword would be coronavirus. A long tail would be coronavirus in the state of Ohio, or coronavirus in Ohio, right? That's a long tail search. Try that out, see what you get. I also like Twitter list, going to people's profiles, seeing what list that they're subscribed to or what list that they're on. If you're going to someone and seeing their Twitter list, I highly suggest obviously looking for the topics that most interest you. And when you look at the ones that they're on, I would look for the ones that they're on from profiles that have a blue check mark. Usually those blue check mark accounts are either experts or journalists. And their lists are some of the most highly curated lists available because they use it themselves for research. So, and then once you get into those lists, if you hit the little three button dots at the top of that feed, you have the ability to filter between show latest or show top tweets. And I love doing show top tweets. So you can get very granular. I think the one that I'm thinking of right now as an example would be if you go to Naval, it's at Naval, Naval, who's an angel investor. He has a Twitter list called Crypto, and these are tech experts in cryptocurrencies. And I love going to that feed and filtering for the top performing tweets, and I get a ton of useful information going to a curated list of experts rather than just scrolling up and down my home feed. So give that a try. Next question. What is the best way to give a PowerPoint presentation? And I'm not a fan of PowerPoint presentations because I feel that PowerPoint gets more of the focus than presentation does. And what I mean by that is people fill up PowerPoint slides with more information that they need. And then they read that slide instead of presenting. I just believe that a presentation should be an engaging one with the audience where people walk away with value. And what's the value of a presentation if you're just reading what you wrote? You could have just emailed us what the slides were and we could have read it on our own. So I think that's the first way I would answer about this, about giving a presentation instead of giving a time where you read the slides is the best way. Also, to kind of keep you from reading, I remember going to the DoYo conference. It's a digital marketing conference that's held every year at Youngstown State University. I remember going there a couple of years ago and seeing a keynote speaker, Deborah Jasper, who is the CEO and founder of Mindset Digital in Columbus. And she had I don't know what it was. I think it was like 75 or 85 slides. And if you use a lot of PowerPoint, you're probably having a heart attack right now because that sounds horrendous. But the thing is, her slides, each respective slide had like a title and a picture, and that was it. And she quickly would flip through each slide to continue the momentum, which I really appreciated. It gets tiresome when you're on one slide that has a lot of text that you're not going to read, and you find the presenter kind of talking out loud, trying to figure out even what they wrote. Being able to keep the momentum and keep us visually inclined, I think is important. And you do that by using less words, more pictures, which equals more slides. And that makes me think of a Seth Godin, who is a Hall of Fame marketer. If you didn't know that, there's a Hall of Fame for marketing people. Nonetheless, Seth Godin, his rule is 6 words or less. So, I mean, if you're in an organization that is PowerPoint heavy, this might feel like a heart attack to you to use 6 words or less. But if you have control over the presentation, try to go for it, right? You got to think about the third order consequences of your presentation, right? What is the goal of this presentation? Is the goal for you to give the presentation, or is the goal for you to give an understanding of the presentation so that way the person that you're giving it to can then send that on to their boss or to their client and try to explain it to them? Those are two different situations because then you're talking about a presentation versus a glorified memo. And in those cases, if you're presenting in person, go the Deborah Jasper route. Kind of that the thin material slides, but then also leave behind where it has additional information, the one that you would be originally accustomed to, that is text heavy and more granular. Leave that behind for people to socialize to their respective people. Next question, and final question. What are some examples of great marketing? And again, perhaps I should have referenced the Marketing Hall of Fame to see what these great people, what they were putting out. But I think it would be, from my perspective, from a social media perspective, there's always that example of the 2013 Super Bowl, Super Bowl 47, Ravens versus 49ers, when the electricity went out, and then Oreo had tweeted that you could still dunk in the dark. And that's a great example of social media. If you don't remember it, Google it, check it out. Perfect time, perfect place, and very simple, right? Very simple and to the point, and I thought that was great. And I think that's a great example. The next one I think is the Colgate commercial. It's the hashtag every drop counts. And that's the commercial with the running water sound in the background while nobody's using it. I'm not sure if that was on a Super Bowl, but you can check that out on YouTube. What I really like about that commercial is that it is both visual and audio. We're all familiar with that sound of running water. And to me, I feel like that kind of prompts a physical change in our day-to-day lives, right? After that commercial, anytime I hear that running water, it has brought to my attention that is wasteful. And you had the opportunity to make the decision to be more effective and more efficient by simply turning off the water when you're not using it. So check out hashtag every drop counts. I thought that was great. I thought that was a something of, what does turning off water do to Colgate's toothbrush sales? It's not like that was going to increase toothbrush sales or toothbrushes, but yet they kind of looked at the whole ecosystem of what their product is and just trying to provide value. And I thought they really did that, and I thought that was great, and that makes me think of their brand moving forward. And then lastly, this isn't a marketing example per se, but to me, going back to Seth Godin, I believe in his definition of marketing, which is this idea that it's the ability to create change as a result of your work. And to me, the great work in the movie Concussion, starring Will Smith, created change in our society that I think that we're going to see throughout the next generation. I think this idea of putting the narrative together and the science of what happens when people play football, I think we all knew that it wasn't good for people to play football, but it wasn't until Will Smith and him portraying the actual scientists who discovered the the brain trauma that happens to football players. It wasn't until then where the conversation really shifted, the focus on the NFL shifted, and then people who are parents shifted their mentality when it came to allowing their kids to play football. I don't have kids yet, but when I do, I'm not going to allow them to play football because of that movie. And, personally, that created a change in my life, coming from a football background in a state that football was created. I feel like that has trickled out to our culture at large. And of course, football, American football, is the biggest sport in our country, in our culture. But I think it's going to be interesting to see 15, 20, 30 years down the road, when you have less and less people growing up playing football, and what that's going to be like for our culture when it comes to the way we look at it and the way we look at brain trauma in general. So it's not marketing, but it's creating the movie Concussion captured a narrative and socialized it and got it out in front of people in a way that to me, I believe, changed the culture for the better. And to me, that is powerful, and that is a type of marketing. So with that, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your attention. I would love to hear your thoughts on these questions. If you have any additional questions that come to mind, please hit me up on Twitter at _Lewis_Lee. I hope that you have a great week. Until next time, stay healthy, stay sane, and much love.